mall cast. We're missing one today, and that would be awesome because he's dealing with a family emergency, as we have been told. But we've already pre-scheduled this a long while back. So instead of, his face or his icon, you get to see his Mad Dog look. His other face.
Yeah.
Anybody that's missing from this point forward, like anybody that does that, is going to be having that Mad Dog on it because we are the mauled cast and we would love to, make modifications to that. And, the Mad Dog is our symbol.
We are the Mad Dogs.
I am Pavan. I am joined with Ryan Alchemisto, Greg, as well as Pirate Juan. And today, let's get into our topic, right? Our topic today is going to be
We're talking
positive
about
mental attitude.
Yeah.
Funniest thing is the one that has the most positive mental attitude isn't here.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He is here. It's Ryan.
Let's be real. Do any of us really have?
That has not been true in the past week.
Yeah.
We
are.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome, to be honest.
No. Awesome
Mm-mm.
tilts hard, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome tilts real hard. If you
Hard?
don't
Let's
Like,
be real.
Up
All
until he tilts, it takes a while for him to tilt. He takes the L's with stride. I do not acknowledge my L's.
yeah. All let's be real though.
See,
all
I just
five
get
of us-
depressed.
Yeah.
There's no positivity to it. I just get depressed when I take L's. I'm just like, damn, dude, I fucking suck.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take an L right here.
All five of us have terrible mental in our own special and unique ways. There's some overlap here and there, but at the end of the day, we all have terrible mental.
Let's describe our
so
terrible mental to start off.
Let's go
How
one
about
by one.
Greg? Go for it.
So for me,
Describe how your mental is terrible.
my mental is terrible. So firstly, I have a tendency to be extremely loud and vocal in games. I don't really filter what I'm saying. So whenever anything is comes up that's negative, I just say that with everything else. So that tends to lead to a lower attitude overall. And when I see a lot of mistakes compounding together, I just fucking go in on it, and I don't try to teach as much as I just say, that was a mistake, what the fuck are you doing? And that's really not a productive way to do that at all. And the other thing is, when I'm the one making those mistakes, I just get really mad at myself, and I start trying to play in ways that minimize opportunities to make mistakes, which in Counter-Strike means going to take raw aim fights, which is not me playing to my strengths. That's not what I'm best at. That's not what got me to the rank I'm at. And when I'm playing other games that I'm not as good at, that leads to me pretty much just inting. Alright, so we'll move along and send that to Ryan now.
All right.
An example of mental positive attitude? Or mental negative attitude?
Well, it's basically, do you recognize if your mental's terrible, and if so, how is it terrible? How is it not the best it can be?
What happens when you maul?
For the most part, it's terrible in an ironic way. Like, it used to be like very, very terrible, where I would throw like temper tantrums, like every so often.
Okay.
And I would get physical. Now, not so much anymore. There would be periods where I would just smack my hand on the desk or my keyboard and whatnot. Now, the worst I do is just yell.
That is true.
And even that sometimes is I do it ironically in a sense, because there's nothing serious to what I'm saying. It could just be in short bursts of criticism. Otherwise, I don't really yell at people out of rage or malice for them. Except for
I think that's happened twice.
Except for the past week, where it was the second time that's ever happened.
Yeah, and I've been there both times. So, and it was both during Overwatch practice, which is really ironic because no one on the I wouldn't say ironic, but it's very fitting because no one on the Overwatch team has a strong mental per se. All of us have been broken down by the game and by each other's play and stuff like that. The first time was I believe Isaac was like a year ago. Isaac and I were calling mid scrim as spectators, and Ryan was like, "Shut the fuck up, just shut up, stop doing that."
It,
And
it,
then-
it really it infuriated me then because one, it was very distracting and it was affecting my gameplay and making me play worse, and second was because like before like we all like agreed that when spectating you would like wait till like during in between rounds or at the end of the map to start talking. You wouldn't be talking in the middle of the map.
And we broke that agreement because Isaac and I were like, "What are you guys doing? Please listen." And then nothing happened, and like the comms were silent too. So like to encourage comms, we were like starting to do stuff. But now we're like, we have like an agreement now. If like comms are silent, spectators can just be like, "Hello, anybody there?" kind of deal. But it's not gonna be like that sarcastic. It's more so just like, "Hey man, what do we need to win win the next fight," and stuff like that. It's questions about the game, not necessarily criticisms. It's usually just going to be about the game and being like, "Hey, did you guys know that? How many ults do they have? Did you guys keep account of how many ults the enemy team has? How many ults you guys have? What are you guys going to do next?" Stuff like that. So it's not going to be like it's more conversation drivers than just straight calling for them, because we want to get the players themselves to do the thinking.
Yeah.
Because we don't want anybody to go into autopilot.
And then the second time this happened was in one of our most recent
Last
split-
week, yeah.
last
Last
week,
Wednesday.
where like one of our players, Sarah, is like, "Can we like stop dragging on about something that just happened and just move on and continue playing the game?" And then we're trying to apply that. So I agree with Sarah in this context, and something happens. Matthew is calling out like a mistake we made, and I tell him, "Yeah, it happened. This is why. Let's move on and focus on what's next." And then Matthew proceeds to repeat the same thing and talk about it for like 4 times over a course of 2 fights. And
Yeah, it was like
So
on the
I- yeah, I
third
love
fight
that
that like everybody just broke and we're like, "Dude, shut the fuck up! Like, move on! God damn it, stop hinging onto it." So yeah, that was weird because like he usually doesn't do that. He usually is on push to talk and he doesn't like do that continuously, especially to the team. But I don't know what happened that day. Like we weren't working as a team, and then it ended up just being like, I guess the frustration of not working together and like us keep like. I was saying the same thing over and over again between maps. I'm like, "Guys, we need to work together. We're very split with the with the way that we're meant to play this game, or the way that we play this game usually. Nobody's doing anything. Like nobody's making like important calls. Like the few important calls are done like mid fight and stuff like that. There's nothing before or after. It's kind of like there's like a mellow before, like the calm before the storm. The storm comes, and after the storm is gone, it's like Katrina hit, and it's like just depression. It felt like that. It was just really bad.
It was really bad.
It was, yeah. It was really that bad, and then at the end of it, I had to yell, and that's where my terrible mental attitude comes in. It's during the middle of the match, I can like detach myself, or in the middle of a game, in a team setting, so scrims and tournaments exclusively. But as soon as the map ends, I will let everything out. I think I've done it every single time I've been a player, where it's after the map, I'm like, "Guys, what the fuck was that? Like, we shouldn't be losing these fights. These guys are dog shit," Because the way that I kind of keep my positivity is by not necessarily like shitting on them, but like downplaying them, downplaying my opponents. It's just like a way for me to cope with my flaws in the game, and being like, I'm dog shit at the game, and I'm like, it's my way of like denying that fact, because I'm like, no, I'm decent at the game. I'm not the worst. I'm not the worst. And then
the way that you worded it initially was like, I know the best way for me to make myself feel better is to make everyone else feel worse.
It's to make the enemies feel like they're shit. Like, I'm like, we're not this bad, guys. Like, we're better than them. Like, that's probably one of my most used phrases in any like losing situation. I'm like, we can take points off of them. Like we can make, like we cannot make mistakes, stuff like that. But there's also like the reason for that is because I have such a high standard, and because I have such a high standard, when because I have such high expectations, when reality hits, it's always lower than that. Like it's significantly lower than that, and that infuriates me. In like when I'm playing like ladder or something like that, like in any game, I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Because it's frustration at my own teammates that I'm not queued with. It's like the random people in my game, and that random chance is ruining my percentage, like win rate. Like the chance that I have to win is being ruined by 4 or 5 other random people. And it's just infuriating because I'm like, come on, man. We had like a 75% chance to win this fucking fight, and you guys threw it because you guys didn't know what the fuck you were doing or don't know anything about the game. And I go into, instead of more physical stuff, I think I've only gotten physical once, and that was at like a Valorant tryout. And I nearly broke my mouse and my headset because I just like threw it and I walked out in the middle of the map. So that happened, and then, but apart from that, I usually just like, just tap my table a couple of times. I'm like, all right, that's a reset, and then I usually am just verbal. Like I will insult the shit out of people. I think last scrim, not last scrim. There was a scrim where we played against like I don't know, these types of play, like their DPS were on me like the whole time. Both of them, like three people on their team were hard targeting me, and I wasn't even out of position. Like they would sacrifice themselves, and so when I killed them, I yelled like, "Sit down" and stuff like that in the middle of the match or like middle of the scrim, because getting targeted isn't fun at all. So when you do destroy someone or like bring them down, you're like, sit, like child, sit. You stop, stop doing what you're doing. Play the fucking game. Stop targeting. And that's how terrible my mental is. For the most part in scrims, I'm like trying to keep like an up, like either a mellow or like a pretty positive attitude, and during games as well. I don't like hard tilt to the point where I'm criticizing my own like teammates. I'm like, if a fight's lost, I'm like, all right, guys, whatever. The fight's lost. Like, what do we need to do next? It's like I'm always concerned about the next step. But as soon as we stop talking about the next step, I'm just like, this is fucking horrible.
All right, and then, I think that brings us.
There's the very topic of conversation himself.
Juan, please tell us about your mental booms.
My mental booms.
What happens when you
can we go to your most recent mental boom?
No. There's a history behind this.
Tell us your history. That's what everyone else is doing.
Take us.
That is the section we're on. The history of our mental booms.
This has been the year of mental boomed the most, and have mental boomed at all. In general, like first 2 years I didn't. I just took it off the chin. Everything's gonna get better. I'm gonna get better. And nope, did not happen. And now I am one keyboard, one monitor down the drain. Then again, $5 keyboards are surprisingly strong. For some reason, no apparent reason, actually.
Juan's currently using a keyboard that I lent him. Until he gets a better keyboard.
Or until he breaks the one you lent him.
If he breaks the one that I lent him, he's paying full price for it.
Yeah.
Directly to me.
Bit of a yikes.
He doesn't have to buy another keyboard. He's paying me like either cash or Venmo straight to my bank account.
Central favors.
I do not accept central favors. I'm sorry.
Bit of a yikes for me, dog.
That's I only take money.
No, but like actually, the way I mental boom is like really different than you guys, because you guys, your guys' play really doesn't get affected as much. But you got, like, when you guys watch me tilt, you guys can tell 200% where my mental state is. It's like, oh, I do normal things that are fine and acceptable, to how are you even allowed to be touching a keyboard and mouse, good sir?
Yeah, or like how are you even able to make callouts? Because that one 5-stack game that we played with Matthew, Alpha, Amir, and the two of us won, those callouts were like really weird because Amir came back into the call and was like, who was making those callouts? I swear it was Papa, and I'm like, I was keeping my mouth shut the whole time, man. I was just doing my thing.
At that point, I mean, thanks for.
I was like, that's tilt right
throwing me
there.
under the bus, but it's more like 3 wards playing with us, but I can't say anything else.
To be fair, like, can we really take anything Amir seriously?
No.
No, it was just funny that he brought it up because I'm like, bro. He's like, dude, don't even look at my play, and I'm like, you died every time, and then they like, we lost everything. It was funny because like I was just playing for fun. I'm pretty sure Juan wasn't taking it too seriously. He was just trying to, like, you know, because it was like our first game in like a couple of months as like a 5-stack together.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying I'm throwing Juan under the bus, but like when Amir asked, I was like,
don't
dude,
worry,
nobody
the bus
was
went
like
over my head.
dead ass, and nobody was fucking talking. Like, I don't know, I don't understand. Like, it was random clicking at one point.
That's what League games always sound like.
Also,
Just-
I would say that I'm almost certain that all of our gameplay gets affected every now and again by
Yeah.
level.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's just like how
you guys-
tilted do we need to get for it to like start affecting our play?
I think I've got like
Fine,
2
I
modes
get-
of tilt. One which like makes my gameplay and brain shut off, and one which makes me shut up and then just play out of my mind. Because I remember I've done that before.
Yeah.
Juan, you were gonna say something?
Any type of tilt that gets to me derails my play.
You're gone. You're just
You're
gone.
just gone.
You are
Dro-
no
drops
longer a
the
positive
mic, drop the
contributor for
mic.
the rest of the game.
It's like a drop the mic situation. Yeah, I feel
I
that.
am the one thing that works as a saving grace for my tilt is that my mental state booms when I make bad decisions or when my entire team like does brain dead stuff. But for the most part, I can step away and mentally reset pretty fast. It's only when I personally am repeatedly making poor decisions that it starts cascading. If I'm playing a Counter-Strike match and literally every single round I am going down because I made a bad decision or a bad play, then I'm gonna get progressively harder and harder on myself until I get to a point where I'm just so mental boomed that I no longer have any way to recover mentally, and I'm out. And for the rest of the game, I'm going to be useless because I'm in a cycle at that point. That's when it really gets bad for me. Most of the time, though, in Counter-Strike, the time between deaths is long enough that my mental has time to at least partially reset. And as long as that next death isn't also like me being ridiculously bad, or if there's any reason for me to say, okay, well that's fine, that was gonna happen no matter what. Like if I'm just on like a pistol buy or something, I can say to myself, okay, it's fine, and I can mentally reset. But in a game where it's more continuous than that, like Overwatch, where every single fight you're gonna have a chance of winning, and the fights tend to be pretty close back to back. Like there might be 30 seconds between the end of a fight and the start of the next one.
Yeah.
Like that is not enough time for me to mentally reset, and there's never going to be a reason for me to not win that fight other than me making mistakes or my teammates making mistakes, because I'm quite frankly not at a high enough rank where people aren't going to make mistakes in a fight. So I never can mentally reset, and I just keep getting worse and worse, and I just get boomed unless we start winning, which is a terrible philosophy to have. But it's just kind of, I've spent so many years playing Counter-Strike, that's how I've built it up. I rely on dead time to reset, so in games where dead time's not a thing, I don't reset, I just get worse. Yeah.
That's
so
fair.
I need to build up better reset mechanisms. So what do
It's
you
either
guys
reset
go
mechanisms
for that?
or like just a higher tolerance, right? Like
Yeah,
the
that
way
can
I think
help,
about
too.
it, like I don't think any of us can just not tilt ever.
That's definitely not the option.
Everyone's gonna tilt, like without a doubt, because the way we are built is so that we set expectations and we fall short of those expectations, we're gonna be frustrated with us, and that's where the tilt comes in.
Yeah.
Or if there's
Sometimes it's not just like something that you can. It's definitely not something you can expect immediate improvement on. Sometimes it could take you like decades. Like for me, I was in desperate need of anger management, and now I just kind of take most of it on the chin.
Yeah.
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 For me,
Which
it's
is ironic because I play Dota. Like you think I would tilt like every other minute.
Mm-hmm.
right, but I feel like in MOBAs you don't tilt as much as like if you would in like Overwatch because it's such a fast-paced game, right? And like Greg mentioned, there isn't kind of a downtime compared to let's say MOBAs or tactical FPS where there is like between rounds and then you have the buy phase and then you have like your death, the time between the round ends and then the next round starts, like actually starts.
Yeah.
That
There's
is
a
true.
decent amount of time, and it's the same thing with like League or Dota 2, where
it's also
it's
because
a similar thing.
It's also because in games like those, it's like I can mute all of my teammates and the enemy, and still communicate with them effectively. And Overwatch doesn't really have a system like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't.
Or like
you can't.
Or like there kind of is, but it's just like not as well.
It's not good enough.
developed.
Like
Yeah.
it is enough of a disadvantage where if one team has everyone communicating well in voice and the other team doesn't, the team that's communicating well in voice is probably going to win.
Yeah.
Whereas
Even if they make the dumbest mistakes, right?
Yeah.
If it's six
because
people
you can recover
making
from them.
Because they're doing it as a team.
Yeah, you can recover from bad decisions if the entire team commits. Whereas in a MOBA, there isn't really an expectation that you're going to be in voice. Like the game has systems set up so you can coordinate well, and you can typically work that out pretty effectively without direct communication. It's still an advantage to have everyone in there, but it's not something you can't overcome.
Yeah, because more agency.
Yeah. There's also, I feel like I've not played Dota, but at the very least in League of Legends, it feels like there's less of a reliance on your teammates than there is in Overwatch. Not to say there isn't a strong reliance, there is. It's still a very team-oriented game.
Your perspective on that is jaded because you're a top laner.
That's fair. I mainly play top lane.
I don't
There's
get to
an
play the game.
isolated role.
Yeah, it is possible to play that game in a way where you aren't completely reliant on your team to do well as an individual. Like, if you're playing ADC, yeah, you're completely reliant on your support. Like, and vice versa for the support. But there are places where you can play where your play is what's going to define if you do well. Not to say that's going to define if you win. You can always lose in a team-based game if your team's throwing hard enough. But I just feel like that is less possible in Overwatch. Like, there is not a role in Overwatch where you're completely on an island unless you're playing like one of the flank characters, and even then most of them are at least somewhat reliant on teammates to capitalize on the flanks you're doing if you're playing like a Sombra and you're hacking people or whatever.
There is a class that exists in Overwatch that is how you described. Her name's Widowmaker.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of.
That's why so many people hate Widowmaker.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because most of those Widowmaker players don't get in voice, and even if they do get in voice, it's like.
Yeah, but
all they're
that's
saying is toxic stuff.
yeah, but that's
they're known for.
one character instead of an entire role.
Mm-hmm.
That is like every single team in League of Legends can have a top laner. Like, you can just be a top laner if you want to not have to rely on your team that much.
I feel like Juan has thoughts on that. Like,
On what? On like what?
Yeah, you're the League player here, dude.
you're the League player. You're
Yeah.
the one who's
I am
like
a casual League
gone
player.
to the natty and like
Choked the
has
natty.
been in a highly competitive scene
Yeah, dude.
for League before.
Please correct me.
Like, do you agree with Greg and how top lane works and how it's possible for people to just be
an island, but the thing what happens is like I mental boom by myself because I'm so used to playing in a team setting where
Mm.
things work differently, and like the best example is like organized sports versus like pickup sports, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're so used to playing pickup sports and you transition to organized sports, well, yeah, you play the game, right? But you won't have the skills of organized play, right? Of like the roles even, or even how set things work in like organized play, right? And like the best, like it's like collegiate basketball, I'd say, or like college hoops to like pick up basketball at the park, right?
Yeah.
Everyone could shoot a three, but are you really supposed to shoot a three, right? And there's like all the other stuff that comes into like playing the game to win
Mm.
over that. And that's sort of like my thoughts on it, and that's like sort of like where the expectations come from, and like why I mental boom, because it's like I'm so used to doing things the right way and like having things go right, or people who have the right idea in mind and then the execution fumbles, but that's fine because you have the right idea in mind. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you did the right play, but the other person just guarded you. That's not you.
Compared to just having the wrong idea to start off.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
like
And then trying to execute that. The execution's fine, but it's the wrong idea to start off. So like
Yeah.
it'll just end up being like a choke.
Yeah, I honestly end up doing like the opposite, where like in a pickup game where I know that the ideas are typically going to be wrong, I feel like both teams are going to have that issue. So as long as I can individually perform, it's fine. But in a team setting, if I have my whole squad working together and pushing on ideas and we just can't execute, that makes me feel like the issue is fundamental to the team, and it just booms me because I feel like I'm not going to win this and there's not anything I can do about it. Whereas in an individual game, if we botch the execution over and over again, I just say to myself, well, the other team's probably botching something. I just need to figure out what it is. And I can exploit that as an individual. So, I don't know. It's just kind of different perspectives on that.
I also
I
feel
guess.
like sorry to interrupt, but I also feel like in esports compared to traditional sports, the game really isn't over off one play, right? In traditional sports,
Yeah.
right? The time limits are way different. The time limits are exceed usually what an esports match goes for,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, even if you have like the higher, like even the higher times league games go for less than what a soccer game go for. Less.
Yeah.
Well, they go for around the same as what a basketball game for. Definitely less than a lacrosse game.
Mm-hmm.
Volleyball depends on like how well each team plays, but there's always a set minimum they have to play to, right? So it's always like if you can make a mistake in an esport match or in a competitive game, it's usually makes you even more frustrated because it's like the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes you put into and you've done things right are just negated by the good things you've done, or they're negated by the one mistake you did, or even more frustrating, the one mistake your teammates did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
if you-
there's
it-
also
well,
like
if-
an urgency to it.
yeah, exactly. But like what happens in at least traditional sports, like you make a mistake, someone who's watching the game or has more authority to say this is right, this is wrong, will be like, hey, you see this again, just do it this way, right?
So what I'm
And then
hearing is
just
we need esports coaches.
yes, but like also no, because coaches can't talk during matches in most
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
It's more like the comparison
It's-
of why. I mean, I feel like in traditional sports, I don't even feel remotely frustrated at myself after not performing as well as I thought I would, or not doing things as cleanly as I think they should, because at the end of the day, there's more factors that can be adjusted to get the result I want. While like, at least for league, it's like, oh, you lose one team fight after 40 minutes because your teammate didn't understand that they had to press B before they fought. Oh well, nice. You lost 40 minutes and 20 LP or whatever.
Get mental
And
boomed.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of time drain, I think, in esports compared to traditional sports because there's that sense of urgency, right? Like, people want to win quick and fast. They don't want to spend too much time on it. For those that do want to spend time on it, they'll just hold the rest of the team hostage. And like there have been cases in league where that's happened, like higher up, where literally one person would hold the rest of the team hostage. But everyone's like, it's a lost game. It's like, I just want to like get this game over with and go next, and that's where like most of the mental booms come in.
Mm-hmm.
For like, regardless of any, um, like range of or tier of competitive on the ladder, right? There is like from Iron all the way up to Challenger, Masters, like whatever, Grandmaster. I think there's definitely going to be, everyone will have that sense of urgency because everyone pictures an ideal game, and that ideal game is we cleanly finish them up and make them surrender in 15 minutes. And then there's this one guy, which is why, even though it's up, like, even though we're talking a lot about positive mental attitude and we're like really diving into the negative sides of like what happens, there also is a negative to having a positive mental attitude, which is if the rest of your team is really not feeling it, don't push them, even if you have like a positive mental attitude. Like sometimes it's like positive toxicity, right? It's like going up to someone who's had a bad day and be like, "Hey, cheer up, man." It's like, no, you need to give them time for them to accept that it was a bad day and to like learn on their own instead of just being like, "Hey, man, we win next," or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating, especially hearing it from a third party being like, "Don't worry, guys, we'll get them next time," because like they don't know, like they weren't there in the game, they weren't playing the game, they weren't like watching you play the game, they weren't in your head, like they weren't in your mind or anything like that.
Do you guys think the format of most tournaments makes it so that it facilitates tilting and mental booming?
I don't really think it's the format, because if it was the format of the tournaments, then you wouldn't see it happening in pugs. Like, it happens just as
It
readily.
happens in pugs
in
a lot
pugs.
more compared to tournaments. I
Yeah.
think.
That thing that you talked about is like PMA being a downside and just making people more upset. Reminded me of a story of one of the personalities that I pay attention to in the Dota scene, Sir Action Slacks. He had a story about when he was on like a bus with Team Liquid, like right after they had a devastating defeat. He had not been watching the games at all at the event. I think it was TI6 or TI5, one of those two. And he was getting on the, he asked a fan, because like he had been like hosting and doing like entertainment content. He didn't get to watch any of the pro games at all. He's like, who won the game? Liquid, like Liquid versus, I don't remember what team. Oh, Team Liquid won. He's like, oh, okay, that's nice. And so with that information, he got into the Team Liquid bus with another personality, Purge, and then he's like, so this must be the winner's bus. And then they just looked at him as in complete shock. It's like, what is wrong with you, dude? And Purge is just like, what the fuck, dude? They fucking lost. And then he's like, wait, I was told that they won. And Purge's like, no, they lost. And the manager of the team was like, oh yeah, that's real fucking funny, dude.
Yeah. Not ideal. That's gonna be not ideal. Bit of a yikes.
I feel like we can move on to the next part or the next question, since we've dived very deep,
Beaten it to death.
Like we've almost beaten it to death to like what makes our mental terrible and what mental boom is and stuff like that. How do we go about addressing it, right? Like, I feel like each of us have our own ways of addressing mental boom. Be it taking a break, be it like getting up, getting some exercise, like detaching yourself at some point from the game emotionally, so that you just think about the game in a very logical manner or something like that. So what is it for you guys that kind of helps cope with either a mental boom or helps after the fact, after you've had a mental boom?
Yeah, so like I was saying, like I mentioned earlier that I just need to mental reset with a bit of time. And typically it's not even too horribly much time. So after a particularly bad game, really the only thing that works 100% of the time is doing this thing where I press Alt and F4 and just doing something else for a while. And what that happens to be typically doesn't matter too much, but normally it's not too productive. Something just like watching a YouTube video or going on Reddit and looking at dank memes. Not r/dank memes because they have low tier memes there, but you know what I mean. Just something that is low stress, low mental workload. I can just passively absorb entertainment and not think about it. And after like 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be like, yeah, that was a rough game. Moving on with my life, and I can start doing something productive again.
Mental boom for the whole
yeah.
day.
My issue consistently is finding a way to reset like that in a game, not after the game. So I'll let somebody else talk now.
Anybody else have
How
a
do you
special way
Kind
of
of
handling
routines
it?
to like detailed.
It's I think it's part of it's like detilting in game. I guess my question was detilting in game and as well as like after you've had a bad game, right? Like how do you guys cope with the mental boom after the fact? Because Juan's had it multiple times there. You've mental
That's been
boomed,
the
but
worst.
like you've mental boomed like a lot, and then like after that, like after like an hour or so, you're back and you're playing it again. Like, but like, how do you apply what happens in that 1 hour time of frame into the middle of a game?
Oh, so how do I get like the pause? Like, how do I get my
The mental
back?
reset.
How do you get the mental reset while you're playing?
Yeah.
So I live by this one wonderful quote, and it's called "W key go." Prr.
I see.
So I just click Q again and hope I don't get the 4 people on my team again.
Yeah.
So
And
you
somehow
play a game of probability and chance.
Yeah, and somehow I get them on the other team and they become gods. So double tilt. It's
Tilted off the planet at that point. You're just
yeah,
like,
but like usually
Yeah,
what
no,
I
that
do-
happened to me. That happened to me.
Usually
That's how I
what
lost 700 SR.
Jesus.
I literally would queue. I'd be in a queue with someone, or like I'd go in, I'd like solo queue, and then I'd have my teammates from the last game against me, and somehow they work. Like all of a sudden, they're all communicating and everything, and I'm just there like my team is not doing anything. Like I get at some point I was like, my account's cursed. Like I
Yeah.
don't get
I
teammates.
saw
who
that
wanna talk
message. That
or-
was I
like,
really struggled
there's-
to.
There's like no way I get that many games. I have to win 19 games in a row. Sorry, 29 games in a row in order for me to go back to where I was at the start of the season. And that's crazy.
Yeah, and so my solution, of course, is giving up. But everyone keeps telling me that's like a really bad solution for some reason. I don't really get it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep
'Cause,
hearing that.
perseverance is a
Most explain why.
very, very, very good quality to have in life.
I don't know. I'm a retired Counter-Strike player now. That's all I'm saying.
Washed up.
Right. Washed
Nah,
up.
not washed up. Retired.
Washed.
Retired.
Same thing. Washed.
I'm done.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, Greg.
Yeah, whatever helps you sleep. Juan, you got anything else to add?
So like what? So I mean,
Like the mental reset
I don't.
in the middle of a game?
Oh, I do not.
He does.
Yeah.
do not.
I think that's the
I-
problem we're all having here, is
I-
that we can't
I-
do it mid-game.
I tilt on wins. I tilt on losses.
You tilt whenever W key is not going burr.
Yeah, but then S key goes burr and I bait everyone.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen. I die. My W
That's
key always goes. It's intense. And then like I feel like it comes down to like how each individual sees like their expectations and stuff, and like at least for me, if I'm not doing good, it's like, oh, I'm doing bad. It's not like, oh, you're doing okay, you know, or it's okay not to do good in this scenario because you're not set up to succeed, right? It's always, oh, you have to do good, right? It's never it's okay to do fine or let someone else do. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't do good in something in the matchup that I was supposed to do really well in. You just did okay. It's like, well, I messed up there. Or when you're doing really good, you didn't win. That's like, oh, because you're not good enough when you're ahead, right? You know, it comes down to a lot of things of like expectations and mentality and like stuff that I don't do. And it's like, I just mental boom. And before I could like just keep it inside and then just be like, oh, it'll eventually even out or balance out. But then sometimes it's like, why do I have to keep it inside? Insert curse words here to everyone in the
Insert
lobby.
typing. Insert typing here. Insert certain a specific language. I know your favorite is
Don't say it on stream, man.
is regarding their birth circumstances.
I thought his favorite language
Oh.
was Spanish, because that's what he grew up speaking.
That's true.
Also true.
Just drop some lambda words in the chat, and no one needs to know what that means.
Yeah.
Not even.
I
What do you mean? I don't chat. It's always. I don't have a chat.
he always types, but he never presses enter. He always just
He types
hits
he
it.
types the most offensive thing that he could think of at the moment, and then he like immediately backs out of it.
He deletes it because he's like,
Honestly,
I'm representing.
That's how I mentally reset.
Yeah,
Let's be real.
that's,
If
I was about to say, it's like you
Yeah.
do that every time.
if I can't
And it's
get it out in the 30 seconds that it takes me to get back to lane, the game's doomed. It's over. So too long didn't read. Don't tilt me enough to type more than 40 words.
Play. All right.
Solid.
Good Sir Alchemisto, what do you do to not flame your teammates into oblivion and make everyone want to block you and never play with you again, and also stop speaking to you, and also curse your entire family?
I mean, if I do start getting frustrated in a game, it doesn't happen that much. I just let out either in short bursts of just like hyperbole or sarcasm.
200 years, baby.
200 years, let's go!
What in 200 years of design
Blizzard
experience
multi-dollar
did you...
Like I'm gonna use like games from Dota in years past like as like some examples, like two of them in particular. It's like one time I had a Faces Void who would playing against a Bristleback. Every time you like get him into Chrono, he would literally just continue to hit Bristleback in the back because that's the immediate direction he's facing. And he does this like twice in the game, and I just type, it's like, all right, when you're touching Porcupine, petting it, do you pet it on the belly or the back? And he replies, on the belly, to which I respond, then why the fuck are you hitting Bristleback in the back?
And he goes, you're right.
It's a good argument.
Yeah.
Does he get that realization?
He gets the realization, it's like, fuck, and then we move on and we continue playing the game.
Wait, that's an option?
Yeah. Like,
Wait,
I
what?
just, like, for the most part, I don't ascribe like any value to any like a lot of things that randoms say or do. I have fairly low expectations. But when it comes to like the team setting, my expectations do get a little higher because these are people I am coordinated with. These are people that I play regularly with. So naturally I'm going to be expecting more of them, but I still try to keep it low because, well, again, I just have universally low expectations of a lot of things.
That's how you deal with the, that's how you
That's the
mentally
general.
set, I guess.
That's the general consensus here.
Yeah.
So you start low so that when good things happen, it feels better.
It's a lot harder to get disappointed when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
That's true.
And at
That's
worst,
true.
it's like I just like over exaggerate, like
Mhm.
yell in a way that's like kind of comedic to blow off steam.
All right.
Right.
Throwing like quips here and there. Nothing too serious. Nothing that would like get people
Riled
too
up.
frustrated and riled up.
Yeah, I've said stuff that would probably get people riled up, but I've said it like in private, either specifically to someone that I know. who
I
doesn't
don't
care.
I don't like outright I don't like insult people,
It's not insulting people. I just like go about like
or I don't
saying
criticize,
random
or I don't,
shit.
I
Like
don't criticize them in a way that's like it's a direct attack on like their ability. It's more so I just like put it in a way that's like somebody like we can have a good laugh over it,
yeah. For
or
me,
like poking fun at the situation.
that's true. Is there any other things that you do, Ryan, that kind of helps you?
Not like in mid game or no.
Mid game or post game?
I mean, post game, you could see like right back there. I have a treadmill.
So you just run on that for like a little
I
bit.
run on that, and then like somewhere else in the basement, I have a punching bag. And if like blowing off steam
Same.
from PvP games, I just play PvE games. Warframe, Remnant, soon to be Cyberpunk, or I just like write.
That's
point.
fair.
Journal every time
Y'all
you
can-
take an L.
Juan, we could make a book series on the number of L's we've taken.
Oh,
Like we could
yeah.
actually make it the mauled book.
So much
Graphic
mauling in
novel.
one place.
Like that Overwatch hero concept that I told you and Awesome about. Like I just work on that sometimes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering like where it kind of sparked from. I thought it was just like genuine curiosity, but I guess it's just like your creativity flowing.
Yeah, that's productive.
Yeah.
All right,
See,
all right.
I just do the opposite, in the sense that if I'm getting tilted, I just yell about it. And my roommates can vouch for this. I yell a lot, and that's why we kind of forced my door to get fixed. So previously, it wouldn't close all the way because its hinges were a little rough. And so what we did was we kind of jerry-rigged it and got our door fixed. Very legally, by the way. Like we actually like got materials and stuff and like got it fixed properly with like the right nails and everything.
Oh dang.
So we got it fixed, and now it closes because the hallway that's right outside my door, my bedroom door, it's the most echoey place ever. It somehow amplifies sound a lot. So even with the door like slightly cracked open, if I'm talking at this voice or slightly louder, you could hear it in the living room, like very loudly. So my roommates got tilted and I was like, yo, you need to stop yelling. And so I, without having that, I just start typing stuff. It wasn't as bad as like in League. In League, I used to type a lot. Like I genuinely thought I'd get like chat banned, and I didn't once get chat banned. And it's because I typed it in a way that wasn't serious or threatening. It was more like, dude, how many times have you beaten me? Like, actually, how many times have you beaten me? And then I go off into like a tangent, and I wouldn't like, it wouldn't affect my gameplay, but it would make like everybody in the lobby laugh. But it wouldn't be like through sarcasm or anything like that. It would actually be me insulting them, and they were laughing at it. At one point, it got so serious. My typing, and me and my friends, we got pretty toxic. It got so far that like another player, either from the other team or our team, asked for a phone number, and I got a call like literally as I was playing the game, and I picked it up, and he was like, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you," and I was like, "Okay, you took it way too far."
Wait. You gave him the number.
Well, I gave him a friend's number.
Why?
Because it was just a random number we could think of. We were like, dude, this guy's gonna fucking enjoy it. And so the next day we asked him, like, hey, did you receive a phone call between 2 and 3 a.m.? It's like, yeah, some guy was just like yelling at me. I told him to fuck off. And I'm like, yes, it worked.
You guys are you guys are terrible people. You guys are awful friends.
No, it's because we did that to each other. Like, it was
I would
like
be
in our
not
friend group, that was the
appreciating
thing. Like, we'd literally pass out each other's numbers just so that we could get toxic with each, so that we could get like, we could feel the toxicity, right, and see how toxic people are. And at one point, we just kind of gave up on it. We just did like /mute all, and then I just did I just did the classic of /mute all, and I'd start typing and I hit enter, and it wouldn't send. So I was like, good. I'd effectively chat ban myself because I wouldn't see what they were saying. I'd just like type random stuff. I'd be like, come on, guys, we can certainly do this. Tyler 1 would be disappointed or some shit like that in League.
That's
But in
why I-
Overwatch, because it's kind of fast paced, I just like I type if not everybody's in voice chat, I ask if they want to be in voice chat first. Like if they say no, I'm like, all right, dude, I have no control over that. Looks like I'm gonna have to step up my game even more. And like I just can't carry through comms alone. And then recently though, I've had like the worst string of luck where I've gone from masters all the way down to platinum, a 700 SR loss over like 2 weeks or something, because I've been playing against either one Smurfs, number two it was like an old DPS player that like I queued with at one point in time, and he just kept queuing into me for like the next 4 or 5 matches on the enemy team, and they would win, and I'd just be like, guys, please, I've told you what they run, I told you how they played, please can we like try to like get some help going with each other? And then like there's no response or something like that. So it's just really weird in that sense. And so the way I mentally reset, at least between fights, is just to like shit talk the enemy team in voice, but not like outwardly, in the sense that I just am like kind of talking to myself. I'm like, this is a fucking dog shit player, fucking trash can. I hope that he has an enjoyable life but a miserable game. Like, and at some point I even said like, I hope you have I hope you give up gaming so that you can be successful in life. I really hope you do. At one point that's what I said to someone, like out loud, and they were just like, yeah man, thanks. So it's a little bit of comedy, but it's also like a little bit of seriousness. I'm like, please fucking leave the game. Like, I don't want to play against you anymore. I don't want to avoid you. Either be on my team or don't show up in my queue ever again. And so it's like, it's just a little bit of frustration there on certain parts. But like the thing that really gets me going is Smurfs, and they're fucking like they're playing the role that they main in just for an experience to shit on people who are lower than them. Like that inherently gives an unfair advantage to one team compared to them.
I love those rank 30 plat widows who just are amazing and hit so many headshots, and you're just like, what do I do? What do I do? I lose. That's what I do. Because they don't miss.
It's like, it's really frustrating because you can't do anything, and like you change your playstyle, but your team doesn't change the playstyle as well. Like you're like, hey guys, I'm not going to be able to peek anywhere in that area. Don't push past my line of sight. And they'll go, it's fine, it's just a Widow. And then you're like, look at the kill feed, and then you just see the Widow get like 4 or 5 picks, and you're like, yes.
Like, oh.
It's not even like a broken hero. It's just like a better player, right? Like fundamentally a better player, and there's nothing I can do in that moment to fix it.
Yeah.
If it was like, it's also part of the reason why I'm far more comfortable in scrims and tournaments, and I don't like fully mental boom in scrims and tournaments. It's because I know where I am with respect to the team, and then I know where I stand against the enemy that we're playing against, or like against our opponent. So when it gets to that point, like if let's say it's you know, I do like a roll for roll check. So if their supports are 4100, I'm expecting to lose a support war, and I'm just trying my best to ensure that like our other roles win and trying to enable them. While their supports might be their carries, I'm not the carry, and so I recognize that. Yeah. But when it comes to like the ladder, I'm like, I have to fucking carry, because if I don't carry in some way, shape, or form, nobody knows what to do. And it's that it's kind of that expectation I set for myself, but also the low expectation I set for others, right? And it's that discrepancy that causes me to tilt, because that low expectation is satisfied, where I'm like, yeah, these guys are, you know, they don't know what they're doing, so I need to help them. And then I come in with calls and everything, and I'm like reaching my expectation. I reach my expectation, but as soon as that like expectations hit and we still lose, it's like, okay, like we lost because nobody, like the people on my team were bad, instead of going by like it was just an unfair match, which for my games it has been, because of the number of Smurfs I encounter, and it's just unfortunate. But when it comes to like just the role itself, it's just infuriating because I'm like I can't do anything, and I start like insulting the game, and
To be fair,
I
it is
even
a
have a
dumpster
quote.
game.
Yes, I have quotes from the team about the game, so which I cannot share unfortunately due to
We
language.
don't want to get demonetized.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So
We already
yeah,
have been. We already have been. We swore earlier, so.
yeah, we've done.
We've
the
been.
swearing part.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, it'd be a lot worse than that.
Yeah. I've said some stuff which implies a lot of bad stuff before.
Yeah.
But it's never been like to the point where I'm serious about it. It's always been like, haha, look at how sad my fucking life is, like kind of deal, you know.
I think the realist.
And I guess I hold on to my tilt a lot longer than you guys do. So post game, because I don't have like a PvE game or something to go to, well now I do. So I renewed my WoW membership. Like
yeah.
now that I have something to do, like if I'm not playing Overwatch, I think I'll have like a better mental state. And part of it is also due to like having like a good routine, like sleep schedule, you know, knowing which hours you're gonna play and like just knowing how to play the game, stuff like that. Like having a fixed schedule is a lot better than having like an unfixed schedule and just kind of playing when you feel like it. Because I think for competitive, especially for ladder, having that consistency is more important than having like an inconsistency. So I'm just trying to like figure out that routine that I want to have with classes and all going on, and like work that I have to do and projects and stuff like that.
Then the
I'm just trying to figure out.
attack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That has
I'm
very
like-
much so hurt mentals across the
Yeah.
board.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In the mental boom semester.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely sounds
This
like.
has been a mental boom semester, and like I don't think there's a way to kind of say like, hey, you can just build a positive mental attitude. I think it's more of you need to increase your tolerance for the negativity and like not taking it to heart. And it's okay to tilt every once in a while, but when you do tilt, it's how you manage that tilt and how quickly you can de-escalate that tilt into kind of a normal zen state. Like a lot of the higher end streamers, they're like, yeah, we tilt, but like one thing that actually helped us climb was I detach myself emotionally from the game, like completely. I don't care about anybody in the game. All 12 people playing that game, including myself, I don't care about. I care about the facts and I care about winning it, and I'll do whatever it takes to win it. And as soon as I perform my best, because I'm not emotionally invested, I'm not going to get disheartened when I lose. I just take
Unless
the
you're
loss.
from
and I
NA.
move on. Unless you're
can't
from
do that.
NA, in which
NA
case
can't
you're
do
just
that.
taking everything personally,
Yeah.
including the
every,
06. though.
everything. There's an ego to everything in NA esports.
Yeah.
Every
It's bad.
I think it's part of the reason why for the world's bracket, I believe the group stages, LS was like, yeah, TSM's gonna go 06 in groups. There's no way they're gonna win a single game. And Reddit just went, who is this guy? LS is such a bad analyst, like way back in the day. I don't even think it was like recent.
and then they got eliminated.
And then they went 06 in groups, and then Ellis was just there like, yeah, man, look at all my haters bow before me.
Yeah.
Sometimes
so,
man
like,
gets it right.
I feel like a lot of positive mental attitude is kind of knowing how to de-escalate a situation for yourself and for those around you, and knowing what you need to do so that it doesn't escalate further, right? Like blaming a teammate isn't gonna help,
Unless
or
it's,
blaming a certain fight isn't gonna help. Talking about a same fight over and over again, or a same scenario over and over again, isn't gonna help.
Yeah.
It's a matter of
Talking
it's a
about
matter of
what's
tone.
next is gonna help. So like, there's different ways to kind of engage positive mental attitude, and I think that's what I've learned over like 8-9 years of just like playing online video games, PvP games in particular.
Oh yeah.
Is to not, whenever like something bad happens, is to not point it out in the moment or anything like that. It's moving on from that bad thing, so you can just focus on the good thing. Even though Juan like mentioned earlier, because of how short our games are compared to traditional sports or something like that, or pickup games, the mentality for pickup games in esports compared to traditional sports are completely different. There's a
yeah.
more competitive side compared to traditional sports. Traditional sports is all about, having fun. Like, by having fun, I mean there's still like an element of competitiveness, but it doesn't go that far as to like, you sucked and that's why we lost. In esports, it's like it's very linear in how we kind of point, how easily we point fingers at people, and that's kind of what I wanted to kind of wrap up to on
Yeah.
on the episode on my end, which was that positive mental attitude is one, knowing what tilts you, two, trying to build a higher tolerance for it, and three, knowing how to de-escalate that tilt in the middle, either of a match, post game, whenever it is, so that you don't hang on to it. Because the longer you hang on to it, the worse it affects your mental, and it will like cause your performance to drop even more.
Yeah. All right.
Does anybody else have anything to add in conclusion to that?
No, I think
Because I
that's
feel like we're going to be wrapping up soon.
yeah.
Now that times are going to be our time's going to be up soon. So
Yeah.
and people have stuff to do.
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head right there. That's a pretty good place to wrap it up, I'd say.
Juan, Ryan,
I'd say
anything?
we can afford to just a little more Steam.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Ryan?
I'd say we can afford to blow off a little bit more Steam.
Yeah.
Get off here.
Mhm. Yeah. So with that, we're gonna end off the episode. Again, please do share our Mallcast episodes with friends that you know. We feel like these topics are kind of pretty interesting to us. Let us know in the comments down below
And don't
on what you think, how you kind of cope with tilting and how you maintain a positive mental attitude. Because the four of us, we maintain a positive mental attitude, but it's not really a positive attitude
Yeah.
in the traditional
I
sense.
have no PMA.
Exactly. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for more updates at twitter.com/Illinois Tech Esports. ITE? Is it IIT Esports?
I believe it's IIT
Juan?
Esports.
IIT
Exactly,
Sports on
sports.
Twitter and Instagram.
At IIT Esports on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
Mm-hmm.
Be it, shoutcasting games, more of the Maldcast if this is your favorite. We'd really appreciate all the support. Be sure to leave a like on the video, obviously, if you like the video, if you like the Maldcast. Show us your support in the comments. Share it with friends. We're really close to 100 subscribers, so
Right.
that might be a thing that
I'm
we
dead.
might want to do.
Ryan's
I'm
dead.
dead.
Good time to
Lights
call
went
it, man.
out. Lights went out in Ryan's house.
Oh no.
Again, we're really close to 100 subscribers, and it'd be really good to get us to 100 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to the channel already, please do subscribe. And with that, I think we're gonna end it off. Thank you guys so much for watching,
Mm-hmm.
and we hope you have a good week and stay in a zen state in your competitive climbs.
Sounds good. See you all.